some rain must fall if I'm to ever grow. I know that.
All in the Cards family, this is Keziah with All in the Cards to do this shadow work video. This one is Indecisiveness, okay? So I just pulled my ancestor message this morning, and look at what it is. Self-care, love on you, be easy on you, okay? And this is the second time I got it, twice, yesterday and today. So that's a message from my ancestors specifically telling me to love on me, okay? So I am going to love on me today, okay? Everything's all good this way, family. I hope you are. It has been a while since I have added shadow work sessions, right? So I am doing this as a shadow work session. I may put it under Healing with Keziah, but I'm not sure. Either way, it's gonna be shadow work, right? Because this is what I've been working on. I got up this morning and worked on a little bit more, but I also worked on this last night late, because it was some things that I've been going through where I have been indecisive, okay? And I'm just kind of trying to figure out, of course, I'm using my Cancer journal, okay? Y'all know when I do my shadow work, I always go back to this one because it also has messages and things of that sort that can help you while you do your shadow work and you're tapping into your own self, right? So it's things in here about, you know, what are your triggers and so forth. So I add to that when I'm doing my own shadow work, right? So of course I'm in my room as normal, you know, on shadow work sessions. If you've been with me for a while, you remember this area, right? Except before I used to have the tapestry that was here, but that's over in the tarot room. But we're not doing tarot today. It's all about you, family. And the subject is indecisiveness. Have you been feeling this way? Have you been going through this where you can't make a stern decision about something because you're just weighing everything, and in your mind is confusion and conflict, and and it could be that it's indecisive about something that's good, but also indecisive about things that are bad. So it could be multiple ways for you. And I was gonna do some singing bowl because I always used to start with my singing bowls on the shadow work videos, and I kind of miss doing these. It's not that I've stopped doing my shadow work, it's just that I've been so busy with doing other things in life. I still meditate every day, right? So I do that in the middle of the night though, but shadow work is needed continuously, family, right? And so I found myself in this type of situation, right? Because a lot of this, and we're going to get into it because I studied a lot about what it is, what's the triggers, what makes this happen, what actually is an indecisive person, right? I even went as far as, family, looking at which chakras does this affect, because that goes back to body parts, also mind. Also, I researched about how to help, right? Tips on how, because when I do these shadow work videos, I do this for myself, okay? So you have to do your own. This is just a push to help you think about it, go through it with me. I also have journal prompts that I'm going to give to you guys, to the same questions that I wrote and answered myself last night when I was going through this, because I had to do the same thing that I'm telling you is the same thing I had to do last night, and I did it. I sat down and I wrote my pros and my cons. We're going to get into all of that, you know what I mean? But yes, family, these are some things that this is a new shadow work video that we definitely need to get going in and break down, okay? Yes, this is not my shadow work sessions and my Healing with Keziah sessions are more of conversational pieces, is what I always tell people. It's like a conversational piece where we're sitting in a room doing our shadow work together, right? We're researching what I've actually researched, and now it's time for you to do your research, right? And we write our journal prompts together. You do yours on your own time. I've done mine, right? Because that's why I'm recording this bright and shiny in the morning, because it still is on my mind. And actually, you know, being able to go through it last night, it really made things clear. I spoke to my best friend this morning and I told her, you know, I did my shadow work. I meditated over it. You know, I spoke to the ancestors. I had my spiritual mother speak to her, you know, the ancestors as well, her spirit team, and kind of gave me confirmation on what I was already thinking, as well as my best friend is very intuitive too. So I pulled from her as well to give me clarity, right? Because you always want that clarity. Even though I have my own from within, but you kind of want to make sure, right? But that's also a part of what we're going to discuss about being indecisive too, right? So I recognize mine. That's why I'm working on it. That's the key to shadow work, is working on you and being able to be conscious of the things that trigger you, your flaws, the darkness that makes you get to the light, right? Because shadow work is the darkness. It's the ugly side of us, right? Which, of course, if you're in denial about that ugly side, you're going to be there forever. Okay, things are you're gonna be wondering why things are happening to you over and over again, and you can't get to the next step in life. It's because you haven't sat down and tapped into you. Okay, so that's what this shadow work video is gonna be about, family. So we're gonna start with, and and guess what I had to pull out, family? If you've been with me, you know, and go back if you haven't, on Healing with Keziah, we discussed the emotional wheel, right? And I pulled it out last night and wrote a couple of things over here about what I was going through with the indecisiveness. That's why I told you guys to print it out, because it helps with not just the one that we talked about, the emotional intelligence, but it helps with other things too. So last night it helped me to look at, on the emotional wheel, fear. But we're going to get into that, okay? We're going to get into that, okay? So that's why I was still in my book, because I forgot last night I was in here going hard, family. Like some of the kids say, I was going hard on myself, okay? But sometimes that's what's needed. Seriously. We have to. Because if you aren't right with yourself, you can't be right for nobody else. And that's just bottom line, family. That's just being real about it, okay? So, yeah, I love to do tarot. I love to use my divination tools. That's whether I'm doing the tarot, whether I'm scrying. I even use my pendulum, right? I use that. I'm trying to get into my runes more. Any forms of divination I love, okay? Because I feel like I can work with my spirit team easier that way. And those are things that they put here for us to use. But the main thing I love to do is research me and the things that are going on with me, that I can make myself better, right? So yeah, so that's what we're going to get into. So let's go ahead and get started, because I don't want this video to be that long, because you know y'all attention span is this short, okay? All right, so and then I'm also doing a collective shadow work video today, and guess what that is going to be like our old ones we used to do on here every week with the shadow work sessions, until I kind of was just like, you know, had life going on, and then it kind of got sidetracked. But we back, okay? So those videos, I'm gonna try to do a collective shadow work video where we pull us a shadow work cards, and it has like the questions, and those questions we journal and we go over with ourselves, and the inner child healing cards, because we need to get back to inner child healing. Some of us still have that trauma that we're dealing with, as well as pull one of the Carl Jung inspirational cards. So we'll do that on a different video, okay? I'll have that posted up as well. All right, so the indecisiveness, family. What is an indecisive person? You know, what is the root? What is the root of being indecisive? That's the first thing I thought of when I was just like, okay, enough is enough. Because I'm so indecisive all the time, right? Not all the time, meaning it affects my daily situations, which sometimes it does. I'm not what you can be diagnosed as indecisive, because there is one that I'm going to talk to you guys about. And I didn't even know that until I started doing my research. And I was like, oh my God, it could get to this point though. So I had to check myself. Shadow work is about checking yourself. Get yourself together first, right? Check yourself, because you know, you are doing it. Okay? That's the gist. You are doing it. There's no one else about this shadow work but you. Okay? So what's the root cause of someone being indecisive? The root cause and the common situation on someone being indecisive, family, is making a decision means you might be wrong. And the root cause of you feeling the indecisiveness normally is because of fear of failure. Okay? That's the top reason. Fear of failure. Okay? That's why people are indecisive. Now, psychologically, because I went to the psychological pages to do my research on this, because people that are like, even my best friend is she was a psychologist major, right? She's basically like my, you know what I mean? So intuitive, but she knows the behaviors and the things like that because she went to school for it. So some of these things I could talk to her and understand from that level as well. But I like to also do my research. So I went on and used some resources of, let me tell you guys where some of those websites. Psychology Today and Psych Central. Those are some of those websites, the two websites that I mainly got some of the main things, like what they diagnose and those type of things, right? Because it can get serious in reference of being indecisive, because it affects you making decisions, because you don't want to be wrong. You don't want to make the wrong decision, okay? That's why you're indecisive, okay? But they say in a psychological way, indecisiveness is linked to neuroticism. I hope I'm saying that right. Neuroticism, neurotism, right? Neurotic individuals tend to ponder about anything and everything that can possibly go wrong. And in that state of mind, they delay things, avoid things, and procrastination is the problem. Decision making can be thought of as a strategy. I'm gonna say they look at decision making and delaying and avoiding it as a strategy to delay on and avoid the negative consequences. So they feel like that's what the indecisive, neurotic people do, right? So they feel like people who are indecisive, where it's to a point where it's messing with the everyday situation or your mental in a way that is affecting your daily life, they consider those to be neurotic individuals, okay? Because they ponder and want to weigh out everything in reference of, anything and everything. They want to weigh out to make sure that they don't possibly go wrong, right? And if you think about what you have been indecisive about, family, you pretty much come back to that same type of situation. I know I do, right? Because if I think about it, that comes back to control. You want to have control over something so bad that you don't want to make the wrong decision. And that could be because of past experiences. That could be because you've taken a risk and it did go wrong, and you feel like making that wrong decision again. You don't want to do that. So it's multiple layers to you being indecisive, right? Now, I found this I put asterisks by everything that stood out to me, because I have multiple pages of research on this, right? And then it goes into my journal prompt questions here. Because this was important to me, because I am an indecisive person. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do some shadow work on this, okay? I'm going to sit down with myself. We're going to figure this out, Keisha, and we're going to get to some things that's going to help me not be so indecisive. Okay, so I feel like hopefully this will help someone else to get started on your research and your shadow work towards what can help you not be so indecisive, right? In the future, help you make good decision making. And the good decision making can work for you in multiple ways in life. Buying a house, buying a car, getting a new job, doing this, deciding between whatever you want to do in life. Okay. Even helping your children in decision making. So this is very, very important, I feel. Okay. Now, the thing that stood out to me, it said, and this was on the Psychology Today, is that commonly Intelligent and smart people are often indecisive because they can see both sides, the good and the bad, in every situation. Ain't that something? So don't be bad on yourself. Don't be down on yourself about this one. Yes, it is a flaw. Yes, it is a weakness to be indecisive, but it is because you can see the good and bad in the situation. So that is the part in your mind that's tick-tick-tocking, right? That is making you think about what can go wrong and what can go good on a situation, okay? And most people who have experienced a lot, we do that anyway, right? So not just, I feel like they said, okay, yes, intelligent and smart people often are indecisive. Yes, but I feel like people who have been through a lot also are the most common in reference of being indecisive, because they already kind of know which way it can go, good and bad, right? So that's kind of what they're trying to say. They said, therefore, when they are in a position to make a decision, they don't do it for good purposes. So it's basically like they have good intentions in life, and it's like they want to make the right decision so bad that they don't make it. You know what I'm saying? They don't make the decision because they want to make it so bad to be good. You get what I'm saying? So if you know, you know. You know what I mean? It says, the next thing I have an asterisk by that stood out in my research is indecisiveness also comes from not wanting to take risk, because risks may have failed in the past. Or you may not be a risk taker. Okay? So it's kind of like what I was saying earlier. I'm a risk taker. Okay? I was just talking to my best friend about that. The risks that I have taken in life have always elevated me. And I wouldn't even call it risk. I would call it the fool card. Me actually stepping out on faith, a leap of faith in most situations. And I have to do that in the situation that I was indecisive about. Okay? Because a lot of the situations, if they're life and death, family, and some things can feel like life or death, family, right? You contemplate on that, right? It's hard if you are a person who is not a risk taker. You feel like risk are, you feel like the fool card is just what it is, being the fool and making that leap of faith, or, I try, but guess what that is? That's not having faith, okay? That's not having faith, or that's your faith is shaken, So sometimes the way you have to, if you're not a risk taker, the way you need to decide on your paperwork, not on your paperwork, but in your journal, if you say, I'm not a risk taker, that's why I'm so indecisive all the time, because I don't want to take the risk of failing, right? But right beside that, strengthen my faith. Because that's where that comes from. Strengthening your faith. Because if you have faith in God and in your ancestors, your spirit team behind you, they're gonna put you in the best place possible for your highest good, as well as your higher self. If you tapping into your higher self, you know that there is no such thing as taking risks. That's just having faith that everything is gonna work in your favor. Regardless, when you speak that type of affirmation and that type of mentality to yourself, that's going to be your reality. So this goes back to the spiritual piece of things as well. That's the way that's another reason why I'm putting this here. I mean, I kind of don't know if I want to put it under healing with Keziah, because this is a portion of healing, but this is also shadow work, which it collides with healing with Keziah too. So this is a form of healing as well, because you have to have strong faith to be able to make decisions quickly and easily, and know that you can also tap into, ask for guidance in decisions, and follow your intuition and your gut. That goes back to what we're going to talk about with your chakras. That's why I have the solar plexus chakra playing in the background at 528 megahertz. Okay. And I have my incense burning because I've been working on that chakra. That's why I'm also wearing yellow, even though it's woo, and I got the black here, but the black is for the dark feminine energy that I'm going through with, trying to get to this yellow, okay? The confidence, right? And we'll talk more about that. But anyways, so not being a risk taker or being a risk taker, that affects your decision making in a big way, right? So you want to jot that down in your book and kind of ponder on that and figure out, you know, does that play a part in your indecisiveness as well? And why? I always put the why there when you're doing your shadow work, and then sit and think about it. Take your time. Take your time, okay? Don't rush, right? So the other piece that I have here in reference of indecisiveness, it talks about the weaknesses of being indecisiveness. The weaknesses of being indecisive is your lack of confidence, because you have a lack of confidence in yourself when you're indecisive, right? Because you are basically telling yourself you can't figure out which way to go. So that's not having confidence. If you had confidence, you'll know the right choice is going to come from within anyway. So you're going to, you know, put your strong energy towards what it is that you feel, right? Because this goes back to your intuition, that gut feeling. What is it that you feel is right, right? That's a part of you being confident. So being indecisive is a weakness in reference of lack of confidence, family. Lack of information. Like if you don't have all the information about something, then yeah, you're going to be indecisive about it, okay? Fear of failure, okay? So we talked about that a lot, right? That was one of the main things, right? Fear of failure because of something that you don't want to go wrong, right? And it also states that indecisiveness weaknesses, or people who have indecisiveness in reference of symptoms of just what I advised you of, is people with anxiety, ADHD, PTSD, and other mental health issues, such as a mental disorder for indecisiveness is, and you can be diagnosed by this by a physician, you know, a psychiatrist or whatever, as being aboulomania. 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 It is a mental disorder which patients display pathological indecisiveness. I did not know anything about this before I started researching, family. It is wow. That it's not wow, but I'm just saying, I'm just like, wow, you know, I didn't know that they had people that really couldn't, like, they can't make a decision on nothing. Like, they don't know which shoe to wear. They don't know which towel to get to use to take a bath. That's how it affects some people to that point. Like, some of us don't have it to that point. Some of us do. And if you feel like you do, where you can't even decide what you, like a lot of females, they always say females can't decide what they want to eat, da 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 da. That's kind of like minimized. But this is like, you can't decide nothing. Like you know, it is just pathological. When it's pathological, that means it affects all your thoughts, okay? So if you're having that, then yes, you need to seek help, okay, outside of yourself, okay? So sometimes, you know, I have to mention that as well in these shadow work videos, which I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to be, okay? And I don't know it all. This is just my shadow work that I'm working through and the things that I'm learning about being indecisive, okay? So, and I'm sharing it with you. And you take this that I've helped with researching from my point of view and my end and from these resources, and you use it too, family, as a tool. If this is something you feel like, wait a minute, that's me, go get some help, okay? You could be diagnosed for this, okay? And let someone help you, right? It's okay sometimes to need help outside of yourself. It's okay, okay? All right, and so it says, so I'm going to give some, I put down here, give some examples of personal examples of indecisiveness. And that's kind of like what I was just saying. So what can I be indecisive of? So most of the time I'm indecisive about big things. Like, should I move to this area, or should I move to this area? Or should I get rid of this car and keep this car? You know, those type of things are me being indecisive and feel like I need to sit and decide. Now, some things that I have been indecisive about personal wise is, should I deal with this family member or not? Those are deep indecisive things, right? Where you gonna have to really sit with yourself and decide, is it something that you can go without and let go? Is it a part of you having control? Or is it a part of you feeling like it's something that you need from that person? Or is it something that you feel like you can't go without? And why? I always put the question mark after that. And because that makes you think a little further into things, right? So all of these examples I just gave you are some things that you could be dealing with in reference of being indecisive about. Maybe you feeling like you're indecisive about cutting the friendship off that you've been in a friendship with this person for over 25 years, but it's not bringing any value to your life. It serves no purpose, but you're looking at you're weighing the pros and the cons. Yes, you've been friends with this person for 25 years, but is it really bringing value to your life? Are you happy with this person? Is this person pouring into you what you're pouring into them? These are things where when we talk about the solutions that I found and the tips and the things to help fix indecisiveness, you're going to need to use, right? You're going to have to think about. May have been something specifically indecisiveness has kicked in, okay? Something that's very hard. It's not that you're having problems and everyone doesn't have the easy indecisiveness in reference of whether I should drive this car today or not, because I have multiple cars. That type of thing. It's not, most people aren't dealing with the strong indecisiveness about that. It's more or less like things that they can't let go of, things that they want to have control over, things that have put trauma into their life and they trauma bond, where it's like they can't let it, they feel like they have to have that trauma in their life, but really in actuality it's all about you being indecisive because of the trauma bonding. So it could be a combination of mental disorders or mental situations and illnesses that can combine that stretches with that indecisiveness too. So pay attention to your emotions, okay? And why you're being indecisive. Majority of what I have researched and gained out of my shadow work is because of the control. I want to have control over things in my life that make me indecisive on stuff, because I don't want to make the wrong decision, because I have a fear of failure. And I have the fear of failure. Why? Because I'm just going in a little extra on my personal for you guys, because I've already done my research and wrote this down and found solutions that I'm using. Okay, so yes, okay, we have some fixes as well, some solutions that you can use. So when I do these shadow work videos, I don't just tell you about what it is and what you can go through and how. I give you some solutions, because I feel like it's always good to have the solutions, whether you use it or not, or whether you find your own solutions. Share if you care. Put some solutions down here that help as well. I love that, family. I love when you guys contact me, speak to me, talk to me. That's good. That's what I love. I love when you guys tell me it helps you, because that's all I do this for, because it's definitely helped me, okay? And it's all about you working on you, right? But anyways, back to what I had here. We talked about, and I gave some of my personal, in the control piece I was saying, because I want to have control over my life. But some things I have to go back to my thinking of, you're not going to have control over everything. And that goes back to that serenity prayer. So that's why the serenity prayer is one that I really love out of all the prayers in the Psalms, because it's like, give me the opportunity to rest in the fact that I don't have control over anything. It's all in God's hands. I have to have my faith has to be strengthened, right? And lean back on the things that I used to do and always have done, which is take risks, which I'm always like that. And I really don't even call them risks. I always used to say it is all about me taking a leap of faith, okay? Because most of the time and I have to think back to checking myself, right? And I did this last night, and I told my girlfriend this morning, it made me make my decision today. I'm a magician. I'm an alchemist. I have manifested, I have done my magic. Okay, I'm gonna just say it like that, in reference of what I want in my life. And I know, okay, with the Most High, my higher self, my ancestors, you know, the spirit team, my guardian angels, and all of them that have helped me and worked with me and guided me to get everything I have in my life now. Solo, right? But with them, right? And so if I've done this and manifested these things, what comes after the magician? The fool. So that's the leap of faith that it is that I have to take. And that's what I've done in the past. And guess what? It's gotten me to the next level, where then I get to the 6 of Wands and all the rest of the, you know, celebratory cards that's in the tarot that you can think of, right? But it's all about the lessons and the leap of faith, right? And the new beginnings, okay? Because of what you have already put out in the ethers, in the universe, manifested. You know, spoke positive over your life, done your rituals, done whatever it is that you feel, you know, made that connection spiritually, right? Meditated, right? All of these things have come to fruition. So when the blessings come in and you still ponder on that, that's kind of a slap in the face to the Most High and your higher self. It's like, wait a minute, we giving you what you need and you still not able to make a decision? No. I got to make a decision. So that's a way that I thought through my last decision that I had to make. And once I thought about it like that, it's like, because I wouldn't have the options unless I made it happen to have those options, because everything is about choice in this world. It's free will. And it's all, I always say, give God something to work with. When you put action behind what you want, you're setting your intent with action, you shall succeed, right? So when those things come into you because of what you've put out, which is the reciprocation, cause and effect, the law of the universe, then you have to think about the law of compensation, because I put the action in, right? And that's relative. That's the law of relativity. That's the truth, right? So yeah, these things all come together, family, is what I'm trying to say, okay? Now, let's keep going because I don't want to be too long. You know, I go on and on and on. But I wanted to tie this with spirituality as well, and how you can handle these indecisiveness thoughts that you may be having in your mind, and you know, go from there. Now, I went a little further after I went into my whole personal examples and so forth, but I went a little further and I said, well, astrologically, because you know I love my astrological stuff and I love my numerology, right? And I love this, you know, all of that about the zodiac, everything, right? And I said, well, God, who is the main zodiac sign that is the most indecisive? And the first thing that came up, family, is Libra and Gemini. These are the two signs. And I'm a Libra moon. And I have a Mars in Gemini. And I have a Venus in Gemini. Okay? So I have a little bit of air in my chart as well. Not a little bit, a lot of air, okay? Just as much as I have water, right? So I'm water and air mainly, okay? And it makes sense. It makes sense, okay? I'm a Libra moon, so I am indecisive, okay? On an emotional level, because the moon is what? The emotions, which also ties back to me being water also. Cancer sun, Scorpio rising, okay? So it all makes sense, family. That's why I tell you guys to know thyself. This is a part of me knowing thyself. Now I know thyself. Otherwise, I would have been like, I'm just silly and can't make decisions. No, Keisha, this is who you are, okay? But it's okay, because you're going to be able to work with who you are and know what makes you tick, right? Know how to balance things out, because it's all about what? Balance, right? So now I know how to balance mine out, and I know how to work with my indecisiveness, and I know why I am indecisive. So check your charts, family, okay? The Libras in the Gemini placements tend to weigh pros and cons before making decisions in any situations. They take long in reference of making up their minds on communication. They also are influenced by other people's opinions. Okay? And they second guess their own instincts. So that's where my Libra moon kicks in, because I second guess a lot. And it's hard to make decisions comes from that in my chart. I know it. Okay? Because it was a major boom for me. I said, oh my God, I'm a Libra moon. And Libra was the top one. Okay? Now, there is other things that are diagnosed as well as obsessive compulsive personality disorder, where you excessively need for orderness and neatness. So you are very indecisive about everything because it has to be in order. You know, you may have that coincides with this. So that's another mental health disorder, because I wanted to give you guys some of the mental health disorders that the psychology today had on there as well. Okay. So you know that it's not just, you know, something that we just talk about as being indecisive. No, this is also can be as extreme as being a mental health disorder. Okay. So you check it with yourself and you look up some of them symptoms on your own in reference of the definition of these things. And you realize or look and say, hey, I'm this, I'm that. And if so, family, get help. Unless you can solve it on your own and you feel like you can solve it on your own. But if you can't, that's okay too. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Okay? Now, let's get to some chakra information. So let's talk about the chakra stuff before we get to the solutions, okay? So the chakra is that this affects decision making. Is all about your solar plexus chakra, okay? That's the one that is affected by the decision making, okay? And if you're having a hard time and you feel like you're indecisive, it's mainly because your solar plexus is unbalanced or blocked, okay? And you may have a lack in self-confidence, okay? You may have a lack in willpower, because those are some of the things that go with the solar plexus. The solar plexus is also where you may feel troubled, where you feel like, you know, inner peace has to be the main thing for you. Maybe you haven't had peace a lot, you know what I mean? You've had a lot of drama in your life, but inner peace is one of the main things about solar plexus as well. Your personal power, your self-confidence, your self-worth, your self-acceptance, trusting and accepting your gut feeling, which is your intuition. If that's off, then decision-making is going to be off, okay? And if that's off, it's going to affect multiple things in your body as well, such as your pancreas, your stomach, your liver, your gallbladder, your small intestines, your spleen, you know, your abdomen, your back. So yeah, okay, family. So that's more or less about the solar plexus. Also, if your solar plexus is off and you want to get that back balance, you need to work on fear on your wheel. Work on fear, right? Fear I have circled here, which is in the main circle, right? Which goes back to trust, and then it goes to the joy, which is the yellow. Because your solar plexus is going to be joyful whenever you learn about having self-confidence and self-esteem and self-worth and your willpower and being able to make the decisions just like you know you got it, okay? That's going to bring you joy, okay? So work with your will. And it also, that fear is about trusting. Trust. Look at where fear is on here, on the wheel, right? And the trust. Right? To get to the joy, which is the yellow. Okay? So you see how it works in that? Right? So you want to work on that. And you can use, when you're meditating, working with your chakras, which now I have been working on my, I've been burning this too, family. And last night I did, because I'm on crown chakra right now. I'm going backwards. I've already worked on my root and went up, which is the right way to start. But I'm going back down because I feel that I need to do that for myself. Okay, so work down, go up. Work down, go up. You make it a repetitive cycle that you do continuously, because your chakras can get all unaligned line easily, okay? And I used my crown chakra bowl last night. So I did some crown chakra work last night in here, okay? And burned some candles and incense and stuff. But anyways, when you're working on your solar plexus, which is around this decision-making thing, is your citrine. Use your citrine. I think I have one over here. Let me see if I can find it. Sorry guys, right here. This is my citrine. You're gonna use your citrine and meditate with your citrine. Put your citrine on your abdomen, because that's where the solar plexus is, and lay down or meditate with it there while you hold it there, and do what you have to do to say your mantras if you want, however you feel that you want to open or get that solar plexus balance. But the citrine is one of the crystals that they recommend, definitely, okay? Also the peridite. I don't have a peridite, but if you have a peridite, you can use that one, and the labradorite. Okay, so if you have a labradorite, I have a labradorite over here somewhere. I don't know where it is right now, but I have a lot of crystals. But yes, but my favorite is the citrine. Okay, I love my citrine, and you can wear it. Okay, because I'm probably gonna switch this one out from one of the ones that I have in my copper and wear my citrines. Okay, because I need to work on my solar plexus. All right. So I gave you some crystals in reference of using it. I didn't look in reference of any herbs, but I will have that. Maybe I'll put it in the description box after this video, okay? No worries. Now let's get to some solutions, or how to fix the indecisiveness for you, or how to heal, how to this is giving you some options to use, okay? Based off of my research and things that I've used. And then I'm going to give us some journal prompts and we'll wrap it, okay? So some of the solutions to indecisiveness, on how to fix or heal indecisiveness, is to pay attention to your emotions and jot them down. Well, not jot them down, journal them, okay? And when it says that is, when you're coming to a point where you're feeling being indecisive, at that point, you want to start journaling. You want to start figuring out and writing down on paper and looking at what is making you feel indecisive. What is the situation that you're pondering on? Write it down, because sometimes, family, when you see it on paper, like I had to last night, it kind of does something different, okay? I don't care what people say about these phones, about you putting it in your phone, typing it and all that. Typing is completely different than you actually getting a pen and a paper, okay? And writing, honey. It is something different about it, okay? So whether you put it in your journal, whether you put it on a brown paper, whatever, however you want to do it, you know, sitting with your citrine on your journal while you're writing it down, family, pay attention to your emotions, journal your emotions, and really sit and decide, why are you indecisive, okay, about this situation. And I'm going to tell you how to get a little deeper into that when you're writing it, okay? We'll talk about that in a few. The next thing was, think strategically about your options, okay? So think strategically. When you are indecisive about something, you need to start at that point journaling or writing down your emotions. Why am I having this ponder? Why am I so indecisive about this situation? Because this situation has to be important for me. If this is important to me, what are my options? So you need to write, that should be the next thing you put under there. What are my options? Because that's going to let you be strategic about how to get to your resolution, okay? Ask who you are trying to please. If you're trying to please somebody through this whole situation where you pondering on the situation, weighing all these options because you trying to make somebody else happy, you need to check yourself on that. Okay? Because it's about you. It's not about pleasing anyone else. You have to stop being a people pleaser, because that goes back to another piece of emotion that you need to deal with. So here we go, right? This kind of goes back to maybe the emotional intelligence, you using your emotional wheel and kind of getting to that and seeing, why am I people pleaser? What is the energy? What is the message? I mean, what is my feelings here, right? Or go back to some of the shadow work sessions that I did where we talked about trauma bonding and, you know, why am I feeling this way about, you know, people pleasing and so forth. I think I've done one on that. It just sounds very familiar. If not, I'll try to get one out, okay? Why is your faith not strong enough to rely on your intuition and God and your ancestors to guide you in your decision making? So at this point, you have to think about and journal about, because when we started out about writing your emotions and stuff, but then the question comes, how strong is your faith? And why is your faith weakened? That's the question, right? That you want to journal. Okay. And then I have down here, going within. You need to meditate, calm your mind. Because sometimes we're indecisive because things is coming too fast for us. You know, it's like, I got to make a decision. I got to hurry up and do this. It's like time, and time is an illusion. Spirit will say, calm down. Allow me to come to you, right? Your higher self, you know. That's why I'm working on my crown chakra, okay? Because that's where you get your downloads. That's where you get your information, your knowledge, your wisdom from the Most High for your higher self, right? So that's why you want to go within as well, okay? On anything, you want to meditate, okay? Because that's where you're going to get your answers, family. Sometimes you want to get clarity on what you already know. That's why I was telling you earlier. Sometimes we second guess ourselves. That's human. That's human nature. Don't be hard on yourself. That's human nature. Everybody wants clarification and confirmation. Everybody wants that in life. If they say they don't, they're lying. They're lying to you. Okay? So, let go of your perfection mindset. So let go of feeling like you have to be perfect throughout this decision that you have to make, okay? You don't have to be perfect. If you get it wrong, that's okay. Because that is a lesson for you to get to the next level. Because in that lesson, in that situation, in that rejection, whatever may have happened that may have went wrong in that decision is happening for a reason, because everything happens for a reason, family, right? So don't be hard on yourself. Get rid of the perfection mindset, because that's another form of control. That's with me. Remember, I was telling you about I wanted to be in control over my life. So that's why I had the fear of failure. I didn't want to make a wrong decision. So that was making me indecisive. But I had to let go and know that I don't have control. I had to let go and let God, right? Visualize possible outcomes. So this goes back to how we always say, and when people always talk about, visualize the outcome of the decision or the thing that you want to happen. Like if you're hard on making a decision, think about how you want life to be with the decision that you want to go the best way, right? So let's say you get a job, right? Or you have two jobs that you have to make a decision on. At this point, it's like, think of the best one that's going to have the best future outcome for you in some way. And stand on that decision that if it doesn't go the right way, that the Most High and your ancestors or your spiritual connection of some sort, however your journey is going for you, will allow things to work in your favor, where you don't have to worry about those risks or that leap of faith that you're taking. Okay? So, because guess what? Your intentions that you set are for good. And family, I can guarantee you, based off of my experience, when you set your intentions on being good, majority of the time it's going to come out good for you, because you're putting that good energy out. Remember, we always say you put good out, you get good back, right? So remember that too, the law of cause and effect, okay? And I had this down here as like a message in reference of what they had here about prior tip that Secretary of the State, the prior Secretary of the State, Colin Powell, he was like very high up military guy. If you don't know who I'm talking about, he was a black guy, and he was like always having to make decisions, right? Because he was the Secretary of the State. Well, he had an approach that everybody has written as one of the good ways of using to be non-decisive. And this was out on the net. And it says he used this thing called the 40-70 rule, right? And the 40-70 rule was you strive to not make a decision with less than 40% of the info needed. So you have to have at least 40% of the information that is needed. And then ultimately make the decision when you have at least 70% of the information that you need about this decision. Okay? So let's say if you have 70% of information for this job and you only have 40% information about this job, so it's kind of like this one you know a little bit about, but you don't know everything about it, but you know 70% about this one. What are you going to decide on? You're going to decide on the one you have the more information on, right? Exactly. So that's basically what he's saying. Weigh your pros and cons like that. If you got 70% of something, that's over half the information. So you're guaranteed to have the majority of that situation to happen for the good. Okay, so that's the way you can look at it. That's a good way to utilize, and have a solution on making decisions. It says also make a pro and cons list. Now that's one of my favorite ones, to make a pro and cons list. I did that last night. Break down your options within a time limit or a deadline. Like give yourself, set so it could be helpful. You want to put yourself on a time, like I'm definitely going to have a decision based off of my pros and cons list by tomorrow. Don't put it far out, and don't make it where it's something stressful like you got to have it done. No, you're doing that for accountability. Okay, but the pros and cons list is just so you can see, once again, with writing stuff out, like I told you, the visual of it, because sometimes there's so much going on in your head, and it's making you quirky and confused, right? But when you put it as what's going to be the positive, what's going to be the negative here, then it weighs, okay? It weighs itself, okay? So you want to do that, family. That's one of my favorites, okay? Do your research, avoid the perfect trap, reduce your options. So if you have all these multiple options, then you want to consolidate these options, right? Get rid of the one that has the less benefits, and maybe even like if you have 4, at least bring it down to 2. You know what I mean? Like really work with your options when it is something like that, okay? And then they had on here, flip a coin. Okay, that's a good way too. If it comes down to it, flip a coin. Okay, use your tools is what I got from that one, which is, for me, like I was telling you earlier, if you're into divination, pull some cards. Use your runes. Use your pendulums. Okay, use your divination resources to help you make some of these decisions. Even go to some of your psychics or spiritual advisors, right, to help you get over this hump if need be. If it's just really where I'm telling you solutions for being very indecisive. Okay, so this is not for the faint. Okay, this is just being stuck in it. Okay. And then that was all I had about the solutions, guys. So hopefully that helps, okay? And then I already told you about the solar plexus, told you about the specific crystals. I told you to go back and utilize your emotional wheel that we talked about on other shadow work videos, right? I told you about what indecisiveness people traits. I told you about some of the mental disorders that are diagnosed for indecisiveness as well. So if you feel like that resonates with you, please get your help, outside of yourself. I gave you some resolutions, some personal examples. So now the last thing, family, is for us to have our journal prompts. I gave you some in the discussion where it was the solutions, but I want to give you some specific that I used yesterday that helped me, right? So let's do that and we'll wrap it up. So first journal prompt was, do I have a fear of failure and why? Okay, so that was my main thing. Remember I told you guys that was my main thing, having a fear of failure, okay? And it says, or do I feel I don't have all the information? Remember, we just talked about that with the whole Colin Powell tip, okay? So you may feel indecisive because you don't have all the info. You lack information. That was one of the weaknesses in reference of being indecisive, okay? The second question I have as a journal prompt is, did I have overbearing parents growing up? They made most decisions for me in the past, okay? Because this goes back to your childhood traumas, okay? And this could be affecting you being indecisive now. Because if you had overbearing parents and parents that made decisions for you all your life, you are going to be indecisive because you've never had to have the responsibility and accountability to make a decision that may be strong in reference of life or death situations, okay? So that is one thing that we have to realize and understand, and we have to tap into. Some of these issues that we go through in shadow work is all behind inner childhood traumas and childhood issues, okay? So this is another way to really check ourselves and say, did we have overbearing parents? And if so, how is that affecting me as an adult in my decision process? That's what I have written here, okay? I didn't have overbearing parents, okay? They pretty much allowed me to do whatever. I'm just not allowed me to do whatever, but you know what I mean? I didn't have strict parents because my mom was young and my dad was young. And my grandma was the only person that was really strict in my life. But, and she really wasn't even that strict either, right? I had my son when I was 17. So that kind of lets you know right there, family. My indecisiveness, and there was nothing wrong with that either. I love my family. But my thing came from my life experiences as an adult. And the traumas and things that I went through as an adult has made me indecisive. Not anything for me in childhood. Some people, the childhood overbearing parents is why they have this issue. So that's why I said I still give you journal prompts for some things that resonate with you and some things that resonate with me, because under here I have no, they weren't. But it made me think about that too. It made me go back and say, well, did they? No, I didn't have that. But some people may. You may have that and have a whole page of why they were overbearing or what decisions they made for you, and you know how that affected your life now, because you can't make a decision about that because they made it in the past for you, and how you wish you could have, you know, these are the things you need to write and get out, because that's another reason why that could be a solution to your problem, okay? So make sure you check in with that as well, okay? Because not everything happens in the adult life. Things come from your childhood, okay? Now, third question. Do I feel I have to be perfect and in control and right all the time? This was the question that hit me in the mouth, okay? I have to have control. Not that I have to be perfect, but if being in control, you want to be perfect, or you want something to be so right. So that kind of does ponder on that. And it's about having control issues and being able to let go. And then you're really going to have to deep dive on that question, okay, family? But these are some things you're going to have to do on your own. Take your time. Sit down like I'm doing this morning, right? Going back and looking over some of the things that I did last night, because I was up to like 12 something doing this last night too, but writing underneath these questions. And that's a part of releasing as well, family. It was so smoothing, you know, to my soul to get it out on paper about these things, and me be able to look back and be like, wow, I really do, you know? And now I'm conscious of that, and I know how to change that behavior, because it's all about change behavior. This is just a form of behavior, right? This is, if you go back to that Psychology Today site and Psych Central. Those two websites are really good when it comes to behavioral situations. So check those out, family. Okay, I like to give the resources too. It's kind of like giving your resources on the end of a paper and stuff. So, okay, you know I went to school. Do you constantly worry about what others think? That's the people pleasing. Remember we talked about that. So you want to write that question now and really soak on, you know, if you feel like you don't, but then maybe there may be a scenario that comes back to be like, well, I was indecisive because I did want them to be happy about it. You know, it can make you really think about things, because you have to sit and think, right? This, you sitting with yourself. A lot of people need to do this. It will help them in the long run, because they don't think about things and they just constantly do. And that's why they have chaos in their life. But when you think about things and you really are conscious, you can definitely tap into something and change your life for the better, okay? I have a lot of questions, but I'm just going to leave you guys with this last one. Have you lost sight of the bigger picture? Being indecisive about some things, because that's what it was for me as well. I had to ponder on that. Remember, I told you I was blessed with multiple options of things to choose from, and that's where I got indecisive. But the bigger picture was I was blessed with these options. God gave me these options and gave me the choice, free will, to make the best decision on one, right? Because you don't want to over dwell on having multiple things unless it's something that you really feel like you can handle, and you ask your ancestors and the Most High and your higher self, is this something that you really should be having multiple of? Okay? And get to that, but know the bigger picture. Know your life purpose. Know what it is that you really want out of having all these options and the things that you may be feeling overwhelmed about, right? Because all these options may be making you overwhelmed, and that's where the indecisiveness is coming in at, okay? So really write that down and think about it, okay? And then I had on here, if you want to keep writing in, why am I not confident in myself? Do I have self-esteem issues? These are some extra ones you want to write. So I said, why am I not confident in myself? Or do I have self-esteem issues? So you want to write that down. And then the last but not least, and we'll wrap it up, is do I have the mental illness disorder that was described? So, you know, you just checking yourself to see if you may have that mental illness. And I know that it hasn't come to that point, which in some cases, some people do, and that's okay too. But it's all about you checking with yourself and working on yourself with that, okay? And knowing that you need help and getting that help. Taking the first steps to get to that help, okay? And go back to your emotional wheel and work through these things. Right on the back, do whatever you needed to do to work through the wheel. And don't forget that wheel is also automatic on that website. I think it was, go back to the emotional intelligence. In that description box, it has the website that you can look at it on your phone, and you don't have to have it printed out. You can click on your emotion and it gives you all these different things to do. It's really cool. It's a really neat tool. So utilize your tools, family. I always tell people to utilize your tools. That's what they're here for, okay? God didn't make all these items for us not to use that energy, because everything is energy. Everything is relative, okay? You can get to the truth through tools, okay? And I'm finished with our indecisiveness shadow work. I think we did very well on it. And I think with using my pros and cons list, which was one of the solutions I just told you about, and really looking through that list, really meditating over it, really listening to others that I went and got my advice from, right? Because advice is what it is, right? You either can use that advice to help you, or you can not even have that device and make the decision on your own, which you're going to have to make it on your own at the end, family. But follow your intuition, follow your gut, write it down so you can have a visual. And I promise you, you're going to have that understanding, and things are going to work in your favor when it comes to being indecisiveness, okay? Being indecisive, okay? It's going to help you to be more decisive. And when you're more decisive, you make good choices and good decisions. All right, family. So that is the end of this video for me. I appreciate you guys for staying with me and watching the whole video. Hopefully this has been a whole hour long on indecisiveness, but we had to get this out because indecisiveness is a big thing with people, and I wanted to make sure you guys can connect with yourself, do your own shadow work. This is just a piece of minds and what I have researched to help you. Okay, so hopefully this resonates, and I hope that this helps you in some type of way. And I appreciate you guys for sticking in here with me while I was doing all the other work that I've been doing before getting another shadow work sessions up. And I love you, family, so much, and I love you through the darkness to the light, and I will see you guys the next time. Bye-bye.
I'm to ever grow.